Good day, guys. How is everyone? We've got about 30 or 40 people joining the call, so let's just get everyone in. I think we'll allow Tom to be unmuted. I think that's fair. Oh, there you go. We were both trying to do it at the same time. Sorry. I'll let you do it. Go on.
There we go. Can you hear me?
I can hear you just fine. Tom with the fancy headset there.
Oh, stop. Had to get a fancy headset, you know. I feel like I'm working in a call center.
Yeah, absolutely. You can do a few calls for us after if you want. There's a few members looking to sign up. So what we'll do is we'll kick off at 1 o'clock. So I'll get people into the meeting. So anyone who's joining us for the first time on one of these calls, the format is we kind of look at nutrition from week number 1 and what's relevant. So this week it's very much about striking that energy balance with food and about your calories. And then we'll kind of have a bit of questions and answers. So that's where it gets fun and interesting. And you can throw in your questions for Tom. So what I'll do is I'll read them out and I'll pick the good ones. We'll stick to the food, guys. No life problems here. We don't have an agony uncle. And we'll kick off that way. So yeah, we'll give it another minute just to get people in. I can see there's still people joining here. And then what we'll do is we'll get you to do a quick intro for yourself.
Sure. That's
there you
great.
go.
All sounds good, yeah.
Good stuff. Okay. So yeah, guys, for those of you on the call at the moment, if you do have any questions you want answered, there's a little chat box down at the bottom of your Zoom call. You can just click on the little chat bubble and you'll be able to pop your questions in there. So we'll kick off in about 60 seconds time. And we're also recording the call as well. So if you need to look back on the call, if there's anything you've missed or you have to jump off early, you'll be able to get that information online last year. We'll pop that up on YouTube and send it around. Cool. There you go. They're all streaming in here now, lastminuters.com. So
yeah, I have a little presentation, Ronan, but I'm not sure. I mean, I can just go and speak away, and then I can maybe. I was thinking after I could even send you in note format, which would be a useful guide for people.
Absolutely.
Is that be okay with you?
Yeah, that's absolutely fine. Well, I'll tell you what, it's 1 o'clock now here on my clock, so we'll sort of kick off. I'll get people in. But do you want to give us just a quick intro to yourself, Tom? A little bit about your background. I know you've worked with some really great people. Sure, I'll pass it over to you.
Sure. Okay. Very good. Thanks very much. My name is Tom Coleman. I've worked for years in the area of nutrition. I set up my Nutrition Ireland about 8 or 9 years ago. I've worked with groups, teams, and individuals, and organizations, and even companies in designing health food products. So my wife is a chef, so she makes the healthy food taste good, essentially. But I've worked in nutrition for many years, and indeed health and wellness. So as I said, I've worked with athletes people like Jamie Heaslip from Irish Rugby and other people in the Irish Rugby team. I've worked with all types of athletes, from Irish dancers to female boxers to everyone in between, and depending on what their goal is in nutrition. So that's a little bit about me. Today I'm going to talk to you. I love talking about nutrition. I'm passionate about nutrition and food. I'm a foodie as well. So I'm going to kind of cover energy, calories, goal setting, and things like that. So as Roland said, if you have questions, please put them in the chat box then, and maybe then Roland can cover them at the end. I suppose we'll go for about. We'll see how it goes. I'll chat away, and we'll go for about 20 minutes or something like that.
I'm sure the few questions in.
Start throwing questions at me. I'm not sure about the levels of understanding, but look, we'll go and see where it is, see where it's at.
Yeah, absolutely. Did you want to share your screen? I think if you click down at the bottom, if you do have a few slides you wanted to show the guys.
Yeah, well, typically I have a load of slides, but it's disabled there. 1 second, let me see. host disable participant screen sharing. I think you'll have to enable if you can.
Let's have a look. There you go. That should be working out.
Okay, let's see.
See if the technology works.
There we go. Right, can you see my screen there?
Can indeed. Yeah, you've got the logo right and everything. Beautiful.
Got the logo right and everything. Okay, guys. Well, look, I don't need to go through the first few. Those are just some of the people I've worked with, so we'll just breeze through that. Okay, let's talk about this is what I haven't worked for years with people. These are my experiences. I've worked with people for years in nutrition, and I like to keep it simple for them. You come across various strategies. Our philosophy tends to be around, most of the time, 80% of the time, if you're quite good, then there is a little bit of leeway there, and there's a lot of credible science behind having days where you're not so strict, right? The most common model that I've come across is the kind of crash and gorge model, the kind of starvation model, which doesn't really work. We don't seem to be able to manage that one. But there's lots of other kind of philosophies around nutrition, like you'll see, everything in moderation I'm a fan of. It's fantastic, but most of us aren't capable of it. But I'm going to make it easy for you guys today, I hope. Okay. Firstly, we talk about the energy in food, and if we look at it from a very simplistic point of view, if we look at, say, fats and oils, they have 9 calories per gram. I'm going to sort of talk a little bit about macronutrients, which is carbohydrates, fats, and proteins for you. Okay, so carbohydrates, things like pasta and rice and oats and things like that, they have 4 calories per gram. Protein has 4 calories per gram also. So clearly the fats are the most energy dense foods. There's one other thing that we intake that gives us calories. Anyone like to guess what that is? I'm going to put you out of your misery now, because I'm sure I get a lot of different alcohol, right? Alcohol. We don't think about calories when we think about drinking, whether it be whatever, if it's alcoholic or not, but the 7 calories per gram in alcohol. Okay, energy balance is hugely important when it comes to nutrition. As humans, we tend to be quite binary. We kind of want to know what's good and what's bad, and it's not that simple, right? But the first thing that we have to get right in nutrition is energy balance, is the amount of energy we're intaking. Now, if I'm being strictly scientific, and I'm going to just, as I said, I can pass these slides on as well. There's 3 ways we burn food during the day. Now, you don't have to worry about these, because I'm giving you the science, and I'm saying, look, forget about it basically, right? As I'm sitting here, I'm burning energy because my motor is turned on. That means I'm alive, right? So I'm burning energy if I'm doing essentially nothing. The energy it takes to break down food, it takes some energy to digest food, okay? Your metabolism essentially, and then physical activity. So those are the 3 ways we burn food. When I hear people saying this food burns fat, it's complete nonsense, okay? So those are the only 3 ways in which you will burn energy. And just to make that clear now, if anyone wants to get really scientific about it, and I can again put this in, if I'm working with a professional athlete, shall we say, and I need to know exactly how many calories this person needs, there is a scientific equation, and that's it there. But you guys, I mean, I wouldn't bother, but I can put it in, but I wouldn't bother with it, right? You don't need to worry about it.
Maybe we'll have a test on this in the end. We'll do all the equations.
Yeah, I mean, if someone is really interested, you can actually do it, and it's pretty accurate, right? Because it's a validated tool, which means it's accurate and it's repeatable, consistent. Okay, so macronutrients, carbohydrates. This gets to me sometimes because I hear people talking about, I'm not eating carbs today, or I'm not eating carbs at all, or carbs are the devil, and it's a very general sense. I always want to know what type of carbs are we talking about here, because let's be honest, Skittles and Mars bars are carbs, but so is broccoli and red peppers, and there's a world of difference between both of those things. Okay, so carbohydrates, what type of carbohydrate and how much carbohydrates? Those are the kind of questions we need to be asking. And again, when it's about quality of food, right? Most people get the amount wrong when it comes to these things. Okay, protein protein, 4 calories per gram. We get it from meat, fish, eggs, but we also get protein from things like nuts and seeds. And actually, you know what? Vegetables have amino acids. All vegetables actually have amino acids, but we're going to have I think next week or the week after, we're going to delve into proteins a lot more. I like protein. I kind of encourage people, if they have weight loss goals, maybe to increase their protein intake a bit, right? So there's a couple of reasons for that. If I digest protein, if I take in protein, it takes more energy generally for my body to break it down. So the net calorific gain is less than carbohydrate or fat, which is good. And also protein will kill your appetite. So if people suffer from cravings, protein is good at killing the appetite, especially if you start the day off with protein. So we have one of the key kind of drivers of hunger is a hormone called ghrelin, and people who have elevated ghrelin levels, meaning they're going to get cravings. A good way to reduce ghrelin level is to have a high protein breakfast. Okay. And fat. So we have carbohydrate, protein, and fat. These are our 3 micronutrients. All fat contains 9 calories per gram. So this thing of healthy fats, we should be getting the fats from our foods, things like nuts, seeds, fish. I mean, there's fats and things that you wouldn't suspect, like a bowl of porridge. In a serving of porridge, we have about 6 or 7 grams of protein and 6 or 7 grams of fat. It's not something that you'd expect, but this thing of having refined fats as being good for us, and it's okay, they're good fats. The most important number in your nutrition is your overall energy intake during the day, right?
That's just on that point there, Tom. That's a really, really interesting point you raise about fats. And this is one of the reasons we actually get our clients to record their food in MyFitnessPal, and we review the food diary. And one of the trends I've seen over the last few years, especially with our female clients, is that they tend to be more health conscious than men. And they'll be eating what is considered healthier foods. And what I see a trend is of increased good fats within the diet, and people aren't realizing that they're skewing their energy balance. It's going above their required calorie intake. And I'll have a lot of female clients who might say to me, I've been training consistently, I've been eating really healthy, but I can't drop the last few pounds. And what they're doing is overcompensating on the training and increasing their stress levels rather than reducing down the calorie intake through the good fat foods. And that's why we review those food diets. Or they're not recording maybe oil on a salad, or how they're cooking, Obviously, guys make this mistake as well, but it seems to be the more health conscious clients that do.
A very typical one is the coconut oil, and the British Nutrition Foundation, the American Heart Association, British Dietetic Association, and about 10 other global organizations issued an advisory letter a couple of years ago about coconut oil, warning people of the dangers of it. I mean, in terms of coronary health. And it's one of those things that people have a perception of, this is a health food, therefore it's good for me, therefore I can eat a lot of it. And it completely skews your energy balance. Never mind what it does from a health perspective. So all fat, if you think about it, 1 tablespoon of fat contains about 120 calories. So I have people saying to me, I have a couple of tablespoons, and some recipes, a couple of tablespoons of oil. And actually, you could have 200 or 300 calories in on top of a meal before you add anything else. And that's enough. I mean, if we want to lose weight, we need a calorie deficit. And even if the only thing you do is stop using vegetable oil, then you're going to probably what's the easiest way, right? That's an incredibly easy way to do it. It's just to cut right down. You don't actually need it for cooking. Most of our recipes, my wife, the chef, she doesn't use any oil because there's actually fats in the meats, inherent in the meats. So, really good point. Generally, so how do we control calories? A simple way of doing it, instead of doing all that equation, is to look at your portions. Look at your portion sizes. Fist size for carbohydrate, palm size for protein, handful of nuts, thumb sizes for other things, but I wouldn't even, just watch that. But the carbohydrate tends to be a bit, people tend to overconsume carbohydrate. For a visual, generally, what should your plate look like? I'm a big fan of eating more leafy greens and veg because they tend to be very high in fiber, stay longer in your system. They tend to be very low in calories. Okay, so high in nutrients, low in calories. One of the key mechanisms for hunger is nutrients. So if you're pushing more of the good stuff in, and you're getting lots of vitamins and minerals, then that's going to actually kill the cravings as well. That simple principle you can apply to your nutrition across the board. I mean, I said earlier, people tend to be like, what's good for me and what's bad for me? Well, the same food can be good or bad for you depending on the amount you eat. Okay, so good quality foods that are high in vitamins and minerals, like the leafy greens and the veg and those type of things, in the right amount at the right time. So all those things are kind of crucial for, and again, with the training in the evening time and stuff like that, people say, well, can I eat after training? Well, you can, but what you're eating and the amount you're eating is important. Okay, because that food is part of your recovery as well, and so yes, you can. But as I said, the biggest message is the overall amount of calories you're taking in. Get that right first, and then the rest will follow.
There was one of the challengers a couple of years ago, and he came to me and he was sort of saying, look, I'm a really picky eater. He said, you're going to laugh at this, but I pretty much only eat steak and chips. So he's a fella in his 40s. He's like, I'm like a child, steak and chips. But I broke down his diet, and the only thing he needed to change, now his goal was fat loss. It was purely fat loss. The only thing he needed to change was the amount of Coca-Cola he was consuming. So he was having a 2 liter bottle a day.
Wow.
His cornflakes, his steak and chips, or sandwich at lunch.
Yeah.
When we looked at his energy balance, he removed the 2 liters and had 1 can of Coke instead, and that got him to the deficit level that was required.
Yeah.
So obviously he wasn't getting the high quality of nutrients that is good for the body. But I think the point there is it shows how important that energy balance was, because he went from belly out to here to flat stomach in 4 to 6 weeks, just by addressing the energy balance.
100%. I mean, like, I'm again, it's sort of goal orientated, and you can have more than one goal. You can have the body composition goal and your health goal together, or you can have just one or the other. But like, it is just that one adjustment sometimes is enough. And that's where, look, you can use myself with the questions and find out where you might be going wrong, but it could be just one simple thing. Like, again, just our sort of philosophy on food would be clean up your food. You don't need me generally to know what you're doing wrong. I done for a company in Dublin, I done 2 full days of one-to-one consultations. I had 12 consultations a day and 24 people, and 23 out of those 24 people knew what they were doing wrong. You don't need me to tell you, right? Clean up your food. It could be donuts, chocolate, wine, or whatever. Increase the leafy greens and the good stuff. The exercise, that's Rona's department, and that is crucial for fat loss as well. There's different intensities of exercise for fat loss that will work better than others. Identify your personal challenge. Your personal challenge could be cookery skills, it could be the chocolate, it could be kids, it could be not getting enough sleep, it could be, and then optimize your nutrition. My advice to you, like, your overall daily numbers are the most important. Daily and weekly numbers are the most important numbers, right, in nutrition. So your calorific intake during the day. Don't obsess over macro splits. Some people are like, well, if I get 50% from or 50% from protein and 40% from carbohydrate and 10% from fat, the macro splits, don't worry about. I mean, they make very little difference in terms of what our goal is here. If our goal is fat loss, right? Very little difference. Cut out or cut right down on the refined oils. You'll be amazed. We cook with, we cook, say, chicken or fish, whatever. We put a little bit of spice on it and kind of cook them dry on the pan, and the inherent fats in the meat actually cook it very well, and people are shocked. People say, is that a special pan you have? Right? No, it's not. It won't stick. So that one change alone can really help you over the long course. Slightly increase your protein intake, I would say, and maybe cut down a little bit in the carbs. It depends on the person. It is a little bit personal, this, right? Increase the high nutrient food. I mean, if you're eating the veg and the salads, excellent stuff. Front load your calories. Generally speaking, we eat the dinner at the wrong time. We should be eating our kind of main meal at probably more lunchtime, and front load the carbohydrates, or most of, not all carbohydrates, earlier in the day, and you burn them off as the day goes on. Don't starve yourself. Another thing that people struggle with when it comes to weight loss is they go on a absolute, huge calorie deficit, and then they start telling me, well, I'm forcing my body to burn the fat, and that ain't going to happen, because what's going to happen is your body will just turn the energy down, and you'll feel drained and lethargic. Fat in the body is an emergency store of energy, an emergency store of energy. So if you cut out too much, a huge amount, your body's actually going to try and hold on to that fat reserve, and it's going to burn muscle before it burns the fat. Okay, that's important. So don't go on too much of a calorific deficit. Okay. Reevaluate failure. Look, guys, myself, and I'm sure Ronan, and a lot of people, we've failed so many times at our fitness goals and our nutrition goals, and it's a battle. Every decision every day is a battle, and you're going to encounter failure, and it's important that you realize that you're going to encounter failure. Now, some people eat a tub of ice cream, and some people get up the next day and say, right, let's be having you again. So, like, please don't let any failure throw you off completely. Get up and refocus every day. So here's a little action plan for you. My little action plan: get the exercise piece right, put the effort in there, and the nutrition is huge, guys. I see people sweating, working so hard at the exercise bit, and then they will undo all their hard work in the kitchen, in a few seconds, maybe. It's so, you really make your life way easier if you're a little bit disciplined in the kitchen. Remember, slightly increase the protein, especially if you suffer from cravings. That will really help satiety. Eat more of the veg, not potatoes, clearly. Reduce the refined fats and the refined sugars and the processed foods. Reduce all that kind of stuff. You know the stuff I'm talking about, right? Try new recipes. C is for control. Focus on what I can control. Write it down, and be honest. The biggest problem with food diaries: people lying. People going, oh, I should write this down, right? But if you're honest, right, there's something called the Hawthorne effect, or the observer effect, which means that if you write it down, your habit will change. And this is something that was found out in the 1950s in the US, the observer effect, right? So even just writing it down on a basic level will help you. Make a reasonable plan for yourself. Don't make the perfect plan or something that's out of reach for yourself. Make something that you can, you have a fairly good chance of hitting. And you're not competing against the model on the cover of the magazine. You're competing against yourself yesterday. Okay? That's what you're competing against, yourself, all the time. Little improvements on a daily basis. That's your goal here. And thoughts. You can never think your way out of any of this stuff. You'd be lying in bed at night thinking what you're going to do. It's about taking action, guys. It's about taking action. What's the internal narrative with yourself? You'll only really find that out when you start failing and messing up. So keep that positive, watch that internal narrative, and refocus yourself. Okay. So that's kind of the first one for myself. I've got loads of information. Pick my brain.
Well, we've got a few questions that have come in, so we can run through them. So, what are your thoughts on zero calorie drinks and diet drinks?
Okay, so the zero calorie drinks, research shows that people who drink zero calorie drinks end up with more weight on, or they've more of a tendency to be obese and overweight. Correlation, does that mean causation? So, I mean, why is that? There's various reasons. People may say, well, I'll have a zero calorie drink, and then I'll have the typical one is, well, I'll have the pizza and then the zero calorie drink, and there's just no you're not going to make up, you're not going to take away that much energy from a zero calorie drink. The second reason I'm not a big fan of zero calorie drinks is they interfere with your gut bacteria. So essentially, sweeteners will kill your good gut bacteria, which causes a lot of different issues. It's hugely important that you keep your gut bacteria healthy. So I'm not a fan of them.
Mm-hmm. I mean, obviously, like you said earlier on, in moderation, it's all fine. But what I've seen in the past is there's people consuming very high quantities
Yeah.
of diet drinks because of the 0 calorie branding,
Mm-hmm.
and it has the alternative effects. But again, in moderation, it's okay. But yeah, sometimes people go, right, I'll have this high energy meal because I'm having this low energy
Yeah,
drink.
that's right. Yeah.
You kind of, people tend to underestimate how many calories are in there. So another question that come through, and guys, pop your questions in the chat box here. So intermittent fasting.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on intermittent fasting for fat loss? Do you recommend it?
I generally like it. I'm not a big fan of different diets and different fads and everything else. But like there is, if it's done, it's the same as anything else, Roran. You know what? If it's done correctly, it can be really beneficial for people. I've worked with people who've used it in the past. I've worked with professional athletes. Again, don't go crazy on it. So what we're talking about is eating a particular during a particular window. So what some people do is they start off with a 12-hour window and then reduce it to a 10-hour window and reduce it to an 8-hour window. The longer you are without sort of food in your system, it will really help your digestive system clean itself up, because your gut bacteria need that time to clean up the digestive system. So some people find it very good. Generally, I would be a fan of it, but don't go crazy on it, and gradually introduce yourself.
Yeah, I think even with myself, before it was a thing or a fad, it just sort of happened that like if I was getting up in the morning time, I found if I ate a big breakfast before I went to go and train people, I'd be hungry an hour or two later, and
Yeah.
I just over the course of the day I consumed more calories. However, if I
Yeah.
got up and I had just a black coffee, wake myself up, and then I had my first kind of like, let's say, snack at around 11 or 12, over the course of the day I'd consume fewer calories.
Yeah.
It just worked for me. I didn't have the same cravings. And again, to your point, if I had something that was higher protein as my first snack, I'd be less hungry because
Yeah.
I wouldn't be as full. So that would work.
I think I work with a lot of I actually do the same. I inadvertently fell into doing the same as yourself, just doing that. I work with a lot of shift workers in my day-to-day work, and intermittent fasting works very well for those guys. So yeah, no, I am a fan.
Yeah. Okay. And I think one of the things I just want people to be cautious is don't think you're doing a diet. For a lot of people, it's just skipping
Yes,
breakfast,
that's
and
right.
that's all it is. You're having your meal later. But just if you look at I suppose stats, people just tend to consume fewer calories over the course of the day, but
They
don't
do,
feel like
yeah.
it's something you have to do. So we have one here about from Lisa. Any advice for a vegetarian who has an underactive thyroid, please?
Um, a vegetarian who has an underactive thyroid, I would say you'd first of all speak to your doctor about it.
Mm-hmm.
There are certain foods that will increase thyroid activity, and other foods that will reduce thyroid activity. So things like anything in the cabbage family it tends to increase it. It tends to reduce it. So just be mindful of foods. You can actually, if you look up, you can get lists of foods that will increase and decrease thyroid activity, because that can cause issues then with metabolism and weight gain.
Absolutely. So definitely speak to your doctor about that, or dietitian, nutritionist. It's always good to get extra advice on those ones here, rather than just relying sort of on myself for that one. So another one here, this is a really interesting one, and I don't think people take this into account enough, but from Harriet, does stress have a direct effect on your metabolism? But let's talk stress in general on the
Yeah,
body and food.
stress, absolutely. If you're in a stress state, you've activated your fight or flight, the sympathetic response, so you're going to have an increased cortisol level. So if you have an increased cortisol level, cortisol will encourage your body to store energy as fat, because if you're in a fight or flight or freeze situation, digestion is not a major priority. So it's just going to sort of push it to one side. So stress has a detrimental effect in many different ways on our bodies, and how we deal with food and energy storage.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
And interestingly with stress as well, like I'll see people who are sometimes when they're training with us for a while, putting themselves under too much stress in terms of exercise. They're doing too much. And
Yeah.
I'll chat to them. They're like, I'm working long hours, I'm not sleeping, and they don't understand that all the different stresses they're putting under their body could actually have a negative effect on the outcome or the results they want.
Yeah.
So stress is important. Again, we'll later on, we'll have it, well, not today, but we'll chat about sleep as well and the importance of sleep. Maybe in week 3, we'll have a look at that, or week 4.
Yeah.
But definitely good. Like I know my results are better when I'm sleeping better, when I reduce my stress levels. We got a yoga class on Sunday, guys, as well. Get the chill outs going on, you know.
Absolutely, but it's really part of the self-care, the recovery aspect, you know. As just trying to keep a handle on that stress, because like it impacts if it's not controlled. And we look at the type of stress and the amount of stress. Same as a food, it's the type and the amount nearly, you know, when it's happening to you. So we can apply that kind of principle. But if it's chronic stress, it needs to be dealt with, because you know you're more likely to have reduced immunity and sleep issues, and you know again it affects so many different areas of your health and wellness.
Absolutely. So it's a good one from Rosika here, and it's relevant to all the females on the call. So for some females, it's a bit different, but when hormones hit, so obviously during different stages of the cycle, they don't like some food. Now I'm going to do a playbook, a period playbook to focus on the cycle, when you should be in a deficit, when you shouldn't be, how it's going to affect your lifting and stuff like that. That will come in the next week or 2. But yeah, can you run through sort of maybe a little bit about hormones and cravings during a woman's cycle?
Look, it's the sex hormones are very powerful drivers. So they will really affect appetite, and I suppose look, all aspects from metabolism to sleep, and all of those kind of different systems are impacted by progesterone, and all, you know, all the sort of female neurotransmitters. Emotional eating can really influence as well. So carbohydrates, you know, they tend to crave carbohydrates a lot, and they, you know, for everyone, but especially for women, there's been a lot of studies on this. So that's where do you remember I mentioned the cheat days, or they're not the cheat? I don't like that expression, cheat days, right? Yeah. But days where we go, right, you know what, today is whatever, I'm going to give myself an allowance, and that can really positively impact your hormones. If you have a day where you have foods like comfort foods that you like, but the tendency is generally that people will crave high fat and high sugar foods. A good way to overcome that again is protein. So eating high protein foods can really help.
And also, I suppose a good way to overcome that is there's certain stages in your cycle when you should probably go back to your maintenance calories versus your calorie deficit if fat loss is the goal, because giving yourself that extra 100 or 200 calories is obviously going to reduce those cravings because you have that allowance. So I'll put together a playbook on that one, guys, and I'll be sending it out in the next week or 2. What else have we got here? Yeah, okay, so, well, interested to see your opinion on this. I got mine. So what are your thoughts on fasted cardio, fasted strength training? Like to train first thing in the morning, but find it hard to eat beforehand. Okay, so we've got fasted cardio, fasted strength training, and time of the day to train.
Yeah,
I train better at night. I personally train way better in the evening time.
So we have our circadian rhythm. So like, to give you an example of how that works. So your for men, testosterone levels are highest in the morning, which you would think would imply that we would be better at strength training in the morning. But I'm like you, Ron, and I much prefer training in the evening, because it's a lot more complex than that. You know, coordination, your muscles work better in the afternoon or evening. There's a lot of different factors that go into you know, how we feel and when we train. In terms of the research on fasted cardio, I mean, look, it's very mixed, and a lot of nutrition. You hear different things, but a lot of nutritional experts say, look, you know, again, it goes back to your overall daily numbers. I think you know, if people like it, if people feel as though it's really going to help them, I wouldn't be against it. Do you understand? But it's very difficult to force your body into doing anything. You know, there are all kinds of theories that people put forth, but when it comes to science that we can repeat again and again and again, it's very mixed when it comes to that.
Well, again, it goes back to energy balance. So I've seen a lot of people who have worked with before who are trying to use fasted cardio because they think it's going to burn more fat. Like that's generally the outcome they're looking for. However, if they are actually consuming calories or food. They're doing strength training. They're building more lean muscle. They require more, obviously, calories to build that muscle. And if they get their energy balance right, which was the original topic of the call today, you don't need to be doing fasted cardio. I'll tell you what, it's a lot easier not to put a piece of food in your mouth than it is to go and do fasted cardio.
Yeah,
So,
100%. It can have a negative kind of compound negative effect if it's if you're really struggling with it. So yeah, 100%.
Absolutely. Cool. Looking forward to the period playbook. Me too. I have to get that one done for you guys. Let's have a look here. So, a question from Namir: how do you get rid of stubborn fat?
Stubborn fat.
Like
Excellent question.
All right.
Yeah,
the love handles. Namir,
love
those
handles,
are sexy love handles. I saw them at yoga yesterday. They're great. How do you get rid of them?
Oh, it's the number one question, isn't it? Spot reduction. Can we exercise a particular area and get rid of the fat? So good news and bad news, right? Spot reduction. Yeah, it might work a little bit, about 1% actually, 1%. So no, that's not great news. The reason the fat on the love handles are here, it's stubborn, it's difficult to get rid of, it is that it doesn't have easy access to a blood supply. So in order for fat to be burnt, it has to be used as energy, so it has to be transported. Okay, so this type of fat, the subcutaneous under the skin and the belly and the love handles, it's hard to get to. To be used as energy. The fat that's surrounding our organs and our digestive system is much easier to get to. It's much more dangerous as well, actually, because it has access to your bloodstream. So with the you just have to be as stubborn as that fat. The way that you can increase blood flow to white adipose tissue is through cold water immersion. That will slightly increase blood flow to you will just maybe slightly tilt the balance you have different types of fat in the body. You have brown adipose tissue, right, and white fat. And the reason the brown adipose tissue is brown is because it has a blood supply. So what I would say to you is, ante up on the exercise to food, give it a massage, do everything but cold water submersion, eat cold shower. All those type of things will encourage it to move out of there. But that's spot reduction won't really shift it.
Mind you, if you're doing the cold water immersion, the love handles actually help keep you warm. So
they help you keep you warm. I mean, yeah, of course, and that's why babies have a lot more brown adipose tissue, because they're not able to regulate as well. So that keeps them warm. They have a lot more brown adipose tissue in their bodies. Okay.
Yeah. Again, that spot reduction, people do always ask about that. Again, it goes back to energy balance. Like I know personally myself, like when I'm kind of like taking the piss, if I've had a few bad weeks where I'm definitely over consuming on my calories, I'll start to put on the belly fat straight away.
Yeah.
And again, I just get my energy balance right, and I increase my protein levels, and it's like it usually takes 7 to 12 days for me to reduce it back down. Because I know what I'm doing with the food and stuff like that. So I wouldn't be focusing on one particular spot. Focus on the things you control, the amount of energy you're putting into your body, the amount of protein you're consuming, and the number of exercise classes you're doing, or even more importantly than just the exercise classes, the amount of general activity you're doing. Take the stairs, jump on the bike, go for a walk. That stuff will burn more than a 45-minute HIIT class. So keep moving the whole time.
Yeah.
Cool. What have we got here? So what are your thoughts on protein supplements, things like protein bars, etc.? Are they good for stopping cravings?
Okay, so protein supplements we'll deal with. So we have different types of protein supplements, from your protein powders. So you have things like whey protein, which is very fast absorbing. And what that does is essentially people think, well, it helps me gain muscle, but actually what it does, is it really stops protein breakdown in the body. Because if you do say a high intensity class with rolling the lads, your body starts to break down tissue. You damage tissue at a microscopic level immediately. So what whey protein will do is it will really help stop that damage rather than rebuilding. Most of the rebuilding is actually done at night when you're asleep, right? The other type of protein powder, as well as different, is whey protein, which is the other end of the scale. It's a very slow absorbing protein. So if you really want to, build a bit more muscle or help your body in that way, you can have a whey protein supplement drink a cup 2 to 3 hours before going to bed, and in that way it will be hitting your bloodstream at the same time as growth hormone to do all the tissue repair. And any protein powder or supplement will help with cravings. Essentially, it will really bring down cravings. There isn't one that and then there's plant protein powders that you can use as well, which tend to be a little bit less harsh on the digestive system. It's finding one that works for you, really. There are good, credible brands. Don't skimp on protein supplements if you're using protein powder. I've paid for research on protein powders that were independently tested, and at the low end, really poor quality. I mean, they're just full of maltodextrin, which is a cheap carbohydrate filler, and they were, the protein content was down as low as 15% on some of these things. So pay for the good stuff. It's traceable. The Irish brands like Optimum Nutrition and Kinetica score really highly in terms of purity. So go for those ones. The protein bars, what's coming with the protein bar? Okay, so turn it over, look at the label, look at the saturated fat, look at the sugars. Because you can get 20 grams of protein, but you could be consuming another 30 or 40 grams of sugar. So check the back of the bar, see what's coming with the protein. Yeah.
What a segue, Tom. It goes into the next question is how can I effectively read food labels and make sure that food is good for me?
Love this. Good for me, it's bad for me, right? Again, context always hugely important. So if I work with an athlete, I'm trying to apply sugar and salt into them, whereas most of us should be, we're like the other way around, right? We have to reduce. So the context is always important. So what's good and bad? So check, like the first thing I would look at in any product is the amount of calories in it. We're talking here today about calories and energy balance. There are some bars out there that I've seen that are 300 and 400 calories. That is insane. That's a meal. I can give you a full meal for that one bar. And I had people saying, this is a healthy bar. I eat 2 or 3 of those a day. And it's like, oh my God, right? So calories, we want to really watch the calories. That's the first thing. And then the second thing is look at the refined sugars and look at the saturated fat. And those are the things I would look out for. So I would, the lower the calories, the better.
Yeah. And if there's words on there that you can't pronounce, you probably know that it's not great for you. Yeah. Again, everything in moderation is fine. Like I would never say never cut anything completely out. If you do like a certain type of protein bar, you enjoy it and you're having one every couple of days.
Yeah, it's fine.
But
absolutely, yeah.
So again, once you start tracking your food in MyFitnessPal, guys, and you can scan the label. So if you grab a label, you can scan it. It'll pop up in MyFitnessPal. It'll show you what's in there as well. You start to notice an effective pattern of what you eat. So you'll start to learn bit by bit, but don't feel like you need to go super healthy straight away. Week 1, focus on calories. Week 2, focus on protein. You'll start to notice your choices get healthier and healthier as you go on. Remember, this is a 4-week program. You've got the rest of your life to be healthy. So don't feel like you need to get everything perfect from day one. Start learning as you go. Cool. Let's have a look down here. So, Andrea, so I don't like to eat fruits, but I like smoothies. What do you think about having smoothies with protein powder for breakfast?
Okay. The question is what's gone into the smoothie. I spoke at the beginning about foods that we drink and the amount of calories, because I can put I can put 1,000 calories into a smoothie, and smoothie's healthy, I mean, so be careful the amount of calories, be careful what's going into it. The mistake that most people make is they put in too much fruit, and then they end up with a lot of calories. And because you've taken the work away from your body, because if you blend it, you take the work away from the body, and you drink it all in one go, you're essentially dumping a load of energy into your body, which will cause a spike in insulin. So what we want to avoid that. So if you do make a smoothie, the first rule is how much is going into it, what's going into it. Put more leafy greens or more spinach or more stuff like that, and more water and ice into it. Put some frozen fruit or banana or mango or whatever you wish, but be mindful of the amount of calories that's gone into it. And secondly is sip it. So it takes you an hour or an hour and a half to drink your smoothie, rather than going, oh, this is good for me, and glugging it all in one go, because that way you'll cause a spike. So yeah, no, I've no problem with the protein powder smoothie for breakfast, but again,
energy balance.
Yeah, it always comes back to that.
Yeah. few scoops of ice cream in the old smoothie as well.
Yeah, ice cream, peanut butter. I mean, you see all. I mean, if I'm trying to gain weight, like which I do, you know, I go lifting weight, whatever else, and I want I want more calories. I go with smoothies because they're a great way of getting more calories in.
Yeah.
In, you know.
100%. When I'm doing like muscle building, I'll literally be banging the smoothies into me, but with peanut butter, which is super high in fats. So
Yeah.
some people may have a muscle gain goal, maybe not in the challenge, maybe later. You have to do your calorie surplus, so you're increasing that. So the good fats are a great way to get those calories in. But we'll touch on that individually with people who do want to do muscle gain. So I think that's all the questions that come through for now. So we'll do a bit of a Jerry Springer moment. Final thoughts for us today, Tom.
Final thoughts. Keep it simple, right? Remember the very simple rules of the refined oils, okay? Compete against yourself every day. That's all you have to do. It's like a vote. Every decision I make has an impact, right? But I don't have to get them all right. I just have to get 51%. Yeah. So go for that, and it will build. It will build. Allow for failure, and if you're really, you know, if you're really getting annoyed and you're not getting rid of that stubborn fat, then you know what? Double down. Use that anger. Use that sense of frustration to fuel your next workouts. Okay, and remember, I say break it down on a daily basis, but this is a long term. This is a long term game. It's not, you know. So be patient with yourselves.
Yeah, I
And
think
also,
patience is
secondly,
key.
one last thing, use Sorsha. So Sorsha is absolutely fantastic. She's a brilliant girl when it comes to nutrition. She knows it inside out. So use Sorsha with the diaries and be honest. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So Source on the call, she'll be doing the food diary reviews, guys. Make sure you put everything in there, the oils you're cooking with, the alcohol you're drinking, the treats you're having. There's no judgment in there whatsoever. It's really about understanding what's in food, and you'll start to see week by week as you progress, you're just getting that little bit better, a little bit better. And eventually the goal is that you don't need to count your calories and you don't need to use MyFitnessPal, that you have an understanding of what's in your food and you understand how your body works specifically with the food you like to consume, so that you don't have to do it. I've only counted calories twice in my life. Once when I was a big fatty living over in Australia and I was trying to lose all the weight and I was disgusted with myself. And then secondly, when I did the 28-day challenge, we did that one during lockdown because I was sick for a couple of weeks and I'd lost a load of weight. And within 4 weeks, stacked on, I think, 2.5 kg of muscle. I'll post the pictures in the challenge group later on so you can see the results. And that's from following this very specific program that we're talking about now. So just follow the step-by-step, guys. Like Tom said, allow for failure, be patient, and it will happen. Guys, we really appreciate you jumping on the call. We'll repost the video later on today. Tom and Saoirse, thanks for jumping on as well. And we'll see you guys next week.
Look forward to it. See you guys next week.
Love you guys. Cheers, cheers. Chat soon, guys. Good luck. Bye.